Are you doing one of these 10 things that could be silently ruining your business? Let's go ahead and chat about it. Welcome to today's video. I have a plethora of pieces that I have been collecting since starting my own handmade soap and candle body product slash business. And over the time I have been collecting this information, I have noticed that they may be kind of ruining, without me even knowing, progress in making sales for my business. Let's go ahead and jump right on in. But before we get to the first silent business killer, I wanted to let you know that if you were waiting for the fragrance oil review spreadsheet to be uploaded to my Patreon, it is now there. So you can click on my Patreon in the description below, and for $10 a month, you can get access to that ever updating fragrance oil review sheet. I've got other digital downloads as well. Also be some recipe cards, exclusive content, those kinds of things coming in the next couple of months. But that fragrance oil spreadsheet is already there. So let's go ahead and hop on in. Number one, sourcing one-off packaging. Now, I have been the business owner that is very much so kind of figuring things out as I'm going along and trying to find the most inexpensive way that I can make the best of my products. And I found in that a very big kind of pitfall is really sourcing packaging from one-off suppliers, mainly Etsy. So this obviously is not to say that you can't find a good packaging supplier on Etsy or that Etsy is bad. I don't mean that at all, but there are always going to be a few rotten eggs in the basket. So that's kind of what I have been running into. Recently I needed to get some gift boxes for my candles, and I was able to find some really nice ones on Etsy. So I ordered them, loved them, used them all. So I went to go back and order more, and guess what? I can't find them anymore. The shop is gone, and I have tried ordering others, and they just don't look as nice. And actually I talked about this in like my summer takeover video. It's really important, especially when you're starting out and kind of trying to attract people to, or attract customers to your brand, that you're being consistent. And I have found that the packaging is really where that kind of hits, right? We don't want to be sourcing one-off packaging because, again, I need more in a couple of months. What if it's not there? What am I going to do? Especially if you've already promised that packaging, like happened in my case, you're going to run out, and then you might be on the short end of that. So I highly recommend to make sure you find a reputable supplier for all things, especially ingredients and packaging. Next up, let's chat about social media. I know that social media is always a hot topic for us in our handmade businesses. Social media is a fabulous way to get your name out there, to get customers, gain traction, tell people what's going on in your business. And I agree that it is wonderful for all of those things. But what I have found is relying solely on social media is really, really, really going to at least make it harder in the long run. You put in all the hours, you plan the content, you do all the work, right, for your post to be seen by a couple of people. And now, while over time, that group of a couple of people will grow, right, and eventually you'll be in a really good spot, when you're first starting out, you got to figure out another way, because that growth on social media is very, very slow. I know a lot of people like to say, oh, I gained, let's just take TikTok, for example. Oh, I got 1,000 TikTok followers in 2 days by going viral. You can do that too. Is it possible? Absolutely, it's possible. We've seen time and time again that you can do it, but it's not normal. Okay, it's very much a slow growth, and you really can do more things by focusing elsewhere and also posting on social media. I've learned that it shouldn't be a prime focus for me, and I've taken a step back from my different social medias. As far as like the retail side of my business, I've taken a step back so I can focus in other areas, which we'll get to in a minute. And I think that it has truly made a difference for me, and possibly could mean the same for you. So if you're relying on social media solely for the growth of your business, I highly recommend you figure something else out. Okay. And tip number 3 goes into exactly what I mean by that. If you are avoiding an email list or growing an email list or collecting emails for an email list, you are truly doing your business a disservice. A lot of people will say things like, oh, email marketing is so over. Nobody does that anymore. Everyone just checks Instagram stories for business updates. And while I agree to some extent that people are checking something like Instagram over an email, I highly disagree with the fact that email marketing is dead. It is not dead. I know, because I am a consumer, and all the brands that I truly love and all the brands that I stand for, I'm checking their emails, I'm reading them, I'm clicking their links, I'm shopping there, and that can very easily be you. You do have to figure out how to get those email addresses, but we can definitely talk about that in another video. It's not necessarily as hard as you might think. So if you're avoiding that email list, you need to stop and you need to get the ball rolling with collecting those email addresses. I have talked about product testing in several videos over long periods of time. We always talk about how product testing is necessary, but aside from just you yourself testing your products, you really need to find a core group of product testers that you can trust to do and tell you exactly what they think, not just sugarcoat everything. A soap, for example, right? So let's say you make a soap and you test, the little scrap from the end, and that's it. You don't test the recipe again. What I've found over time is that people are asking, especially at in-person events, people are asking individual questions that vary based on different bars of soap. So though it's all the same base recipe, people are still looking for that more individualized information about the product. And if you haven't tested every single one on yourself and given it to other people to test, you won't know what to say. So I have one bar, and actually, yeah, I do have it right here. This is one of the first bars I made. This is called my Secret Garden bar. And here's the label on the back. It's very floral. I love it. It's a great soap. So one of my very best friends, she has gotten, I want to say, no less than 5 of this bar of soap. So eventually I asked her, what do you love so much about this particular bar of soap? She told me that it's the only bar that can actually take off her clinical strength deodorant. And I actually found that to not be the case with one of my other bars. It's really nice, something as little as the fragrance can make a huge difference, because both bars have the same recipe. The Secret Garden is taking off people's clinical deodorant, but the other one was not, and it was very strange. And I, for a minute, was like, man, how could that be? It's just the fragrance oil, but it can make a huge, huge difference. So though you might be just testing one product, you really need to, or one product from that category, you really do need to test all of them. Another great example, this, I know the wrapping is the same, but this is a totally different bar. This is called my Raspberry Blossom. And if you watched my dupe fragrance video, I actually, this Raspberry Blossom, it's the same name under dupe, is the fragrance that I used for this, and I absolutely love it. It smells so good. I took it to a market for the first time over the weekend, and everyone was like, the smell of this is so great. So what I found when I was testing it is I don't know if you'll be able to see it. I'll show you, but I don't know. You see those little pink dots in there? Those are jojoba beads. I thought it would be really cool to have just like a little scrub factor to it, a little exfoliating bar. And what I ended up finding out is through using the bar myself was I put way too many and the bar was too scratchy. Again, the same formula, but one tiny tweak made a huge difference. Now I know that I can tell people this is a really nice bar, but it does have jojoba beads in it. So if you're not interested in having that exfoliating experience, then you definitely shouldn't try this one. Instead, try one of these others. Definitely make sure you test out each and every product before you go ahead and sell them, even within the same category. Makes a huge difference. The next thing I found that could be stopping you from making sales is having vague labels. And I know that this sounds weird, right? Because when I first kind of was coming up with the list of things that I wanted to talk about, I was like, oh, I need to talk about labels, but I need to address it in a very specific way so that you fully understand where I'm going with this. So I make cocoa apricot creme wax candles, and those candles have a wooden wick. Well, I didn't realize that people might not be familiar with wooden wicks. So I made my candle label that has all of the FDA requirements. And what I found from talking to my customers, I have one customer that is a family member of actually the same friend that I was just telling you about with that soap. She wanted a floral candle when she came to a vineyard event I was at. I didn't have one, but I had this Secret Garden soap, and I was like, hey, I have this fragrance. She really wanted floral, but I didn't have any. So I was like, smell the soap, and if you like it, I can make that a candle for you. So she loved it. I made her the candle. I dropped it off to her. Well, I saw her a couple of weeks later at a party, and she told me that she was having a hard time with the candle. And what we ended up figuring out is she thought that the wooden wick was a cover for the standard cotton wick. So she was trying to pull out the wooden wick to find the cotton wick to light it. And I realized, that was just one small example of sometimes when you have more unique or less standardized products, you have to be more specific in the label so people know exactly how to use it. So having more specific labels will really get your product across to people, and it will just really improve that customer experience. Okay, another way you could be ruining your business is by buying tens of 20s of variations of different things. What I found over time is the less you can buy while you're still figuring things out, the better. Because now I'm sitting at, like me personally, I wasn't sure about labels. So I thought about and ordered like 10 different sizes and different materials so I could really figure out the labels. And that's all good and fine. You will run into situations where you need to buy a couple of different variations to figure out the right one. But I ended up thinking to myself, okay, I need this size for soap. I need this size for scrub. I need this size for body butter. Then I need a lip balm label. Now I need a perfume label. And really what I should have done was say, okay, this one size of label, I think it's a 3x2, can fit my soap bars. It also fits my scrub bottles. It also makes my candle labels. So really focusing in on that one variation of what I need can help me in other ways. Saving money, using less storage space. I can buy in bulk, those kinds of things, so I have them more readily available. That one is huge for me, and I know I've talked about it before. Just streamlining as much as you possibly can will make for a smoother growth. Number 8 is all about those fragrance oils. I talked briefly about my Patreon earlier, so I'm not going to go much into it. You should definitely be doing your research before you're buying fragrance oils. If not on my Patreon, then definitely check out your suppliers' websites. They read those reviews, check their information. They'll usually have really good details, see how they soap, see, their recommended candle happenings. All of those things combined can give you the best outlook of which fragrance oils are going to work for you in your business, which will again save you money. Next thing you want to do, you want to make sure that you are not putting out products before you're ready. That one I feel is self-explanatory, so I'm not going to go too far into it. But again, don't rush to get things out. You're only going to end up stressing yourself out and wasting material. So don't do that. Just wait, take the time, do the full testing, and call it a day. And finally, the last thing that can ruin your business is not working on your website if you are web-based. People rely on those pages to really get a feel for the product because they're not in person to check it out. The more details, the better. It truly is something that you have to work toward and find like a good fit for. You can develop it over time. You can go back, you can edit it, add things, and change things. All right, as you can hear, the babe needs me. So I'm gonna cut it there, but don't forget to check out my Patreon and I will see you in the next video.